Welcome to Loving Your Life, Your Business, and Yourself. I'm Susan Bach, and I created this group for you, heart-centered entrepreneurs, CEOs, to provide you a safe place where you can find inspiration, make connections, and discover practical, thoughtful tools that will help you have a business and a life you love. In this edition of Fabulous Feature Friday, our featured member is Krista Giannak. Welcome, Krista.
Hi.
Great to have you here today.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Krista is a writer and PR professional who helps business owners and experts get noticed. Don't we all need more of that? She also shares her journey from scared child to business owner, public speaker, and skier who happens to be blind. Visit her at wisewordsthatmatter.com and on Facebook at Wise Words That Matter. So Krista, I have to jump right in here. Being raised in Colorado and a downhill skier since I can practically walk, I have to ask, skiing blind, what is that like?
Well, it was really all about facing my fear. And it really started with basic conversations because when I was a kid, I had no idea that you could ski blind. I didn't think it was possible. And I ended up finding out about it through my sensei, because I'm part of a martial arts program. And so that was exciting. I was like, is this really possible? Are these people nuts? Are they for real? So I actually called them up and started asking questions, and they reassured me and they guided me through the process. They told me what it was going to be like. And when I got there, they were wonderful ski guides and ski instructors that were there to support us every step of the way, including hands-on if necessary. And gosh, boy, did I need it, because I did not know how to do anything. I've never really roller skated well. So how the heck was I going to ski? And it was a slow process, and they guided me. And I still remember that first time a few years ago. I'll never forget when they pushed me down that slight little slope, and I felt so empowered and free that I was learning to control my turns, and I felt at one with the skis at that moment. And that was really special. So just the way I faced my fears. And so in a way, I help clients do the same thing, because they get overwhelmed about getting noticed, about what do I do next? Where do I go? How am I going to find the time? And so the way they guided me through the process, I also guide them.
Oh, that's awesome. That just gives me chills hearing you talk about skiing. And I cannot imagine the sensations you must have been experiencing in addition to your fear. And as you said, then feeling very empowered. What a powerful combination.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. It really feels, it's empowering because you learn to control your body in a way that doesn't, and you get some of that speed, and you also learn to control the speed so it's not out of control.
Hopefully.
And it's a lot about balance and perspective and perception. So I have to pay attention to where's the fall line, where's, yes. And I have to listen to the guides, and they can stand around me to make sure that no one is, that we have enough clearance.
Yes.
Doing. So they have all kinds of techniques to keep blind people safe.
That's awesome. What a remarkable opportunity being provided to people. I think that's incredible. And it sounds to me like you've taken some of that courage and that step-by-step process that you learned there, and you've incorporated that into your business. So what's the number one challenge you help your clients overcome?
So for me, the number one challenge I help with is helping clients really truly connect to their customers and get noticed. Because a lot of times companies just talk about themselves. They're always like, me, I'm the best, I'm number one, I'm great. And I'm not talking about everyone, of course, but this is so common that I see. And it's really about relating to your customers, looking at using the language of your audience, looking at what they do on a day-to-day basis. What are they doing in their daily lives? What are they buying? And it's about looking at their emotional states. So instead of writing about you, you're writing about them and about how you can help them.
That is music to my ears. That's one of the biggest complaints I know that my clients come to me with is this not being visible, not being heard, not being able to reach their ideal audience. And through the investigation and discovery process, much as you just mentioned, it's because they're not really speaking the language of their clients.
Exactly. Yeah, and I love the discovery process because my background is journalism and PR. I ask the right questions. My clients say they appreciate my outsider's perspective, and I help them find the deeper stories that they're not sharing.
So tell me, how did you get started as a writer?
Well, I think I'll share a little childhood story because I've always had a story ever since I was a kid, always had a story in my head. And one day I was probably about 8 or 9, something like that. And I wrote this story about a little girl who could float into space, didn't need a spaceship, didn't need anything. She could just float there and go out there and have adventures. And my teacher didn't like this because she thought, oh, well, you need a spaceship and you need a spacesuit. And what else do you need? And I said, well, it's my story. It's my character. And I want to write her how I want to write her. So I really feel like writing is as much about following rules as it is about thinking outside the box. So I went on to write for local newspapers, for a trade journal, and for PR, and then, of course, my content writing clients.
So share with our audience how you transition, Krista, from a newspaper to your own business.
Well, I was working for, I was working for a nonprofit, and the nonprofit ended up eliminating my position. And I got to work for local newspapers that were cutting down. They actually ended up being bought out, the firm that the newspaper publication that I was working with. So it was either, and I was going on a few interviews and sending out lots of resumes, and I felt like it was either I'm going to stay here, wait for the phone to ring, and get nowhere by doing nothing, or get somewhere by doing something. So I realized that even though I was afraid to network because I was afraid everyone would just see my cane, I had to go out there and do it anyway because I wasn't getting anywhere with what I had. And in time, that turned into, I realized I can make this a business. I don't have to wait for the one golden job opportunity. I can have clients, multiple clients, and eventually get security that way. Go out there, make a living in my community.
That is a terrific, inspiring story. I think out of adversity sometimes becomes our greatest opportunity.
Yeah, sometimes, because sometimes you need that, not necessarily rock bottom, but you do kind of need to have some sort of an impetus. Like, if I stay here, nothing's going to happen. You need to have some reason to change.
Right. You can wait for something to happen, or you can make something happen. And in your case, exactly, you definitely made something happen. That is so cool. So with this natural writing talent that you have, obviously that's part of your uniqueness. And we each have that uniqueness, that gift, skill, talent, ability that we have, and we can do like no one else can. So with that ability, you said that you love the discovery process with your clients, with asking the questions. Can you expand on that a bit for our viewers, please? Sure.
So a lot of times it's about expanding on what they're telling me. So if they're just going to talk about, oh, I've been a business owner for 20 years and blah, 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 it's about getting them to really talk about it's about asking the right follow-up questions. It's all about being curious. I'm really curious. I love to learn new things. So I was once I wrote for an engineering firm. The woman was the engineer and the man was the marketer, which was a fun little upside down to the normal stereotype, quote unquote normal. So I got to ask her the deeper questions and discover that her talent was in visualizing, as much in engineering as designing, that she was visualizing what her clients needed. And they told her what she needed. She could visualize it, she could draw it, and she could get the results. And that was her talent. So I love to discover what people's talents are and what their hidden stories are.
Sounds like you and I have a great deal in common in our approach.
Oh, that makes sense. Sometimes coaches have to do the same thing.
Very much so. I mean, several years ago, one of my clients crowned me the queen of questions. She actually gave me a crown. It was very cool. Because I think it is in the questions that not only that we ask of our clients that help them discover more about themselves and help us learn about them, but it's also the questions that we ask ourselves. It's having a conversation with ourselves that matters, rather than the common everyday rote questions that are easy to answer. It's when we ask these real meaty questions that require contemplation and require us to go inward to really discover, I'll say, more of who we are. Just like you did when you learned how to ski. I mean, that was an incredible discovery.
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of it is about turning those questions into positive questions that might have an answer. So instead of, are they crazy for skiing? The question becomes, is there a way to ski blind?
Right.
So the idea being turning around the negative questions.
Anything is possible. One of the,
right. Or if it's not, you'll find out you'll be much less biased against it if you look for ways that it is. Maybe it's not possible, but you won't know till you discover it.
That's right. It's having that open mind, and the word that you use that I love is curiosity. Having the curiosity and the willingness to stay open to receiving and open to the opportunities.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite authors that had a huge impact on me is John Strzelecki, and his first book was called The Why Cafe. And subsequent books, he introduced the concept of the mad how disease. And he elaborates that on saying, when we get stuck in the mad how disease, it's how are we going to do this? How are we going to make this? It's the how.
Oh, I'm big on that, obviously.
That's the powerful. It's not the why or the what, but it's the how can we make this happen? What action can we take today? How can I influence my future to be what I want it to be, or influence my business, or in your case, the how you can engage your clients so that you discover more of who they are and can put that forth to their clients so they become more visible.
But you said it's a mad how disease, so I thought you were saying it was a negative in the book. I'm a little confused.
It can be. It depends on the perception and how it's used. If you get stuck in the how and forget about the bigger picture and the view and the vision, if you're so consumed by the how, you will never get to the realization of what can be. So his suggestion is that you ask different questions that aren't necessarily the how, but are more discovery-founded questions to help you. I think you use the expression outside of the box, to think outside of what the norm would be.
To see what rules can I break and still get away with it.
That is so true. That's great.
You know, it's kind of interesting. I wrote a blog post on my wisewords.matter.com site about breaking grammar rules and winning. And the idea being that there are people who break grammar rules on purpose and all kinds of other writing rules because it helps them get their message across better. So sometimes there are situations where if you break a rule, it's actually better.
Oh, I will definitely check that out. And again, what was the website?
wisewordsthatmatter.com.
All right, and we'll definitely put that in the post with this video so that people can just click on the link. And you mentioned writing a blog post. What advice would you give to all of those of us who were bloggers?
So it's about thinking from the customer's point of view, because it's very easy to, especially if you're an expert or a seasoned professional, you have a lot of knowledge, and it's very easy to talk about that knowledge and just kind of go on and on. What tends to be a little bit less easy is looking at what they need to know, because it's about their life. So for example, if you're an IT professional, do they need to know about the newest routers and the newest models and things like that? Or do they need to know 5 quick, easy ways to make sure your data is backed up? That's an example.
Wow.
And I actually love working with IT folks, other analytical type people, as well as sometimes I've worked with some coaches as well. I got to write a fun little post for a coach on weeding out the dirt and the clutter in the garden of your mind. So it's kind of like, you kind of use the phrase of getting dirty for fun, because it's not really obviously getting dirty, but getting dirty in your getting those negative, dirty thoughts out.
That's a fabulous concept. So it sounds like, for me, you have the ability to transverse from highly technical, I'll say linear thinkers, to the creative, open, free-flowing concept.
I enjoy working with both, and it really depends. I'm definitely a lifelong student. I love to learn new things, and depending on the style, I can also go to the other side and do the, like you said, the free-flowing. That's a lot of fun. I wrote for a frozen yogurt company one time and got to experiment with fun words for flavors and things like that.
Was there tasting involved?
There could have been, but I live too far away, because although I live on Long Island, New York, so I do PR mostly for local clients because I have more media contacts on Long Island, obviously.
Sure.
And the other stuff, the blog posts, the content for their web pages, that I can do for people who, wherever it is they live and work, as long as they're speaking, as long as they're in a place where English is spoken.
Right. So, Krista, I'm curious, do you have an ideal client, the absolute perfect person that you love to work with?
Experts in their field who are really excited, really passionate about an innovative new product or service, or about their knowledge. I love people who are academic and know a lot, or just people who have a lot to offer the world. And a lot of these folks are struggling to connect with their audience because of what I had mentioned. They're all over the place. They have a lot of knowledge, and they don't know what their audience needs.
Being an author of a weekly blog post, I can tell you that one of my challenges is not to come with too much information, not to try to cover too much in one blog post, or I do a monthly masterclass, not to give too much in a masterclass. So how do you know what's too much, what's not enough, and what's right? Can you give me some tips there for our blog post people?
You know, I feel like there's a lot of intuition there, but if I had to give a sort of a frame of reference, maybe, you have to look at what the audience already knows. Try and see if you can figure that out, or even do a little market research to find that out. And often people know more about their clients than they give themselves credit for, too. When I start asking questions about their ideal clients, they really start to shine. So you take that information and you look at, you don't want to go too much further from what they already know. You want to give them quick tips, advice that they can implement, or you want to start them on going back to the idea of guiding people through a step-by-step process, you want to start them on their first step or their next step in their journey of whatever it is that you do.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you. Keeping it contained, not too much at any one time. For me, when I get too much information, personally, I go into overwhelm, or I start to glaze over and I just kind of check out, and then I can't absorb anymore because I'll say I've reached my saturation point.
Yeah, that's the point where I'm just madly taking notes and hoping that they will, that I'll be able to study it later to really take it in.
Right, right.
If I'm in a class, I mean, I try, because otherwise I'm, like you say, it's so easy to zone out.
It is. I have so many questions that I would like to ask you. And I want to make our time together here the most for our audience as well. You mentioned writing blog posts for people and also doing content for websites.
Yes.
Do you also create marketing campaigns?
My background is journalism and in PR, especially media relations.
Okay.
So the strategic, I guess it depends on what you mean by that.
I'm thinking of, like, for example, email content for a product launch or promotion.
I don't do as much of that. If I am doing email content, I will bring in someone who can lay out the content, or
Okay.
I'll work with the client with their existing platform. And we'll look at, and a lot of times when I talk to clients about email marketing, it's all about repurposing the blog posts and other things that I'm writing and that they already have, because so many people don't realize that their email list is a wonderful way to get the word out there. And basically it's all about creating value. So if you're having someone do your email marketing, see if you can start repurposing that content to put on your blog, or vice versa.
That's a great suggestion. And also, if you want to do vlogs, the video, that's great too.
I do Facebook Live every Wednesday, actually, on my Wise Words That Matter Facebook page, where I give a lot of quick tips on getting noticed, boosting your creativity. And that way, people who just want on-demand content can tune into that. And then people who want a webinar they can sign up for my free interactive webinar instead.
Well, I will definitely be doing both because I'm intrigued with both of these. So you said your Facebook Live is every Wednesday?
Yep, at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Excellent.
On Wise Words That Matter on Facebook.
Excellent. I'm curious, there's that word. Do you work from home, and do you have a team that works with you?
So I don't like to talk about it as working from home, because that makes it sound like I'm always home, and I'm not. I find that it's one skill that I've cultivated is the art of working from anywhere. So whether I have to ride buses a lot, being blind, I have to be waiting in office lobbies because I'm early, and I just take out my phone or take out my laptop and start working. And for me, it's really important also the idea that to go out there and network and find my team. Because when I first started out, before I even started networking, I was just kind of, okay, I'll go online, I'll get some freelance work, whatever. Didn't work out so well because I was alone. I had no one to support me on my entrepreneurial journey, and I was working for less than the work is worth. So, and there's also the other part of the team is that not only is it important to have support from networking colleagues and other folks that you hire, it's also important to have support when getting noticed. So I don't work, or rather my blog posts work best and my website content works best when it's created as part of a team. So there's a web designer and or a graphic designer involved. We're talking about strategy. It's not just about get this content out. It's about an overall strategy, all about repurposing. So like you were saying about the email marketing, or about advertising campaigns, or about direct mail, or whatever it is, that you have multiple strategies and multiple ways to use whatever it is that you're paying for.
Excellent. Okay, we're coming up at the end of our time together, Krista, and I do want to share with the audience once again to be sure and join Krista's free interactive webinar, Get Noticed Now, to transform your message and truly connect with your customers. wisewordsthatmatter.com/webinar. And again, I will put this in the post. Krista, do you have any other comments you'd like to add before we wrap things up?
Yeah, if you think something isn't possible, try to find somebody who's done something similar and see if they'll talk to you.
That's so inspiring. Thank you. Thanks so much for being who you are, Krista, and for sharing your uniqueness with us today. I truly have enjoyed our time together.
Thank you. Me too. Happy Friday.
Thank you. And as always, you'll find more great events, fun, and resources at susanbach.com. So head on over there and leave a comment now. And once you're there, be sure to subscribe to my email list and be an insider so that you will receive the access to awesome new videos, PDFs, and audios as I release them. They'll be on the inside. Again, that's susanbach.com. My parting comment to you today is please stay on your path to achieving your dreams because only you can make them come true. Thanks so much for watching, for joining us today on Fabulous Feature Friday, and I'll see you again next week.